Welcome to One Foot In. I'm Ohana. He's Winn. Um, it's not Tuesday. It's later than Tuesday, because
It was
of
my fault.
technical difficulties, because
No,
of
it
the
was my fault.
situation. No, it's okay. Honestly, it works out because there's no game this weekend to preview for a preview episode unless you're very excited about Army Navy or what was it, Western Michigan, against a team I forgot.
Forgot
But
it too.
if you're excited about those games, we won't be talking about them. We won't be covering them, unfortunately. So
Gonna
no
watch.
preview episode for that. So we're kind of just blending it all into one episode this week. Next week it'll resume it. Well, yeah, next week will resume as normal because we
Yeah,
do have games. We have games, bowl games, playoff games even starting next week. So that'll be awesome. We also have the most important game of the year, which is not a playoff game, but is the Gasper Bowl. Because Florida plays Tulane. I hate Tulane. That game is very important to me. Gonna need Florida to win.
I might end up at that. We'll see.
You might end up at it. We will be discussing it because it's that important. It's that
Yeah.
relevant. But anyways, that's not a discussion for today. Today, we're finally gonna get to the games that happened this past weekend, which obviously we did not talk about yet on Tuesday because it is past Tuesday. It is fine. Um, and that's all the conference championship games, and that's the bracket being set, which obviously is huge and informed us of all the playoff games that will be taking place. So we said before the week or before the weekend that there was one game that would probably be the biggest of them all in conference championships, in terms of name value, in terms of draw. Now, it didn't turn out to be the most fun game. We'll get to that one a bit later. But Georgia, Texas, the SEC championship, the SEC, the biggest conference, yada, 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 all that. We both thought Texas was going to win the rematch, which obviously they lost to Georgia in the regular season 30-15. We said that there was a lot of short fields for Georgia and a lot of circumstances and scenarios that we didn't think would repeat. And then Georgia went out and they won the game, 22-19. And I think I've made a decision on Texas. I think I have.
That's what.
And honestly, I'm sure you're probably I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure you're with me on this. Because it seems pretty evident to me that they have a quarterback problem at this point, at least in big games. Um, I don't think Quinn Ewers is the guy to win you these games. He keeps it's I mean, he's literally the lights are way too bright for him all the time. The lights are just constantly too bright for Quinn Ewers. Like when those lights turn on, it is too bright for him. He'll give you a great performance in the regular season against a weak opponent, and he'll put together a good season against a weak schedule like Texas did have this year. I mean, their one ranked opponent was Georgia, and they lost to that ranked opponent twice. I think they have a quarterback problem. I talked about in the last episode on Friday about if Quinn Ewers doesn't play well, is it time for the conversation to move to Arch Manning for the playoffs? Because it feels like with Quinn Ewers at quarterback, you're kind of a shot fight. You're kind of done. Like you really don't have a chance. It feels like to me when you run against. I mean, let's be honest. I don't know how you feel about this, but if they had to play Oregon, do I think they're going to win? No, because I don't think Quinn Ewers would step up in that situation. If they had to play Georgia again, I mean Georgia, and this might have helped them, but they were without Carson back for most of that game. So and they still couldn't get it done. Texas, that is. And so I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about this game. It's kind of how I feel about Texas, even though I was super high on them at the start of the season and throughout, really. But it gets to a point, as they say.
Yeah, you're right. And the Quinn Ewers debate is an interesting one, right? Because you would look statistically and say, well, this guy threw for over 300 yards. How could you sit here and say that, blah, 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 blah. But he's got two interceptions in there. He's only averaging 7.8 yards per throw, and he was sacked 6 times. And one of the things that I think that people aren't really talking about enough in this is Texas's offensive line because they couldn't run the ball well either. Like Texas just struggled to run the ball on a Georgia team that has given up some decent, yards against other teams. I mean, they've let some opponents really run the ball against them. I mean, Texas ran the ball with Wisner. What was it? 19 times, 51 yards, 2.7 per carry, and Ewers was sacked 6 times. So, I mean, look, as much as I do want to, there's a lot to talk about, but I think the offensive line needs to be looked at. And look, Georgia's got phenomenal players, but I thought that Texas was going to be able to match up and kind of learn from the last game's mistakes. But you also brought up something here that I think is really important. That I don't know. Some people are definitely talking about it, but I don't know if they're talking about it to the extent that I think about it. And that is that Texas didn't play enough good teams in the regular season. They didn't. And
Mhm.
it's not their fault because that's their schedule.
Right.
But the thing is those games in the regular season, like they prepare you for stuff, like they get you there. And yeah, Georgia had a pretty tough, they had I mean, some say the toughest schedule. But what that did is it prepared them to one, feel like they can take on anybody, and two, play really good games and have those mistakes shown,
Right.
right? So, like, when you're playing Ole Miss and Ole Miss is getting to the quarterback a lot and they're not able to put up points and these different things, okay, well, that at least, you can learn from that. A very famous quote is you learn more from your losses than you do your wins. And I don't think Texas had a team that really
Hey,
came.
Socrates.
Yeah, okay, yeah, feeling good today. Feeling very philosophical. I got this damn sunbeam in my face that I can get out of my way because my window's open. It's really
Shout out. It's okay. The playoff brackets protect you from the sun.
beautiful. I love that
Yeah.
for background.
Shout out.
But I mean, look, it is surprising that Texas wasn't able to come away with this one, especially when Beck went down, and especially and Texas shot themselves in the foot a lot. They had like 11 penalties for I think 91 yards. I mean, when you're in the SEC championship game, you can't do that. You can't do
Hmm.
that. It's just as simple as that. Ewers not, and like you said, I don't think Ewers has the capability and the firepower to bring Texas to that national championship level, and I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I still leading up into the SEC championship game, definitely thought they had a shot to get it done, to be in that
Yeah.
game, and I think that's out the window now, and I think you would agree.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And by the way, um, I don't think it's fair for Sark to escape criticism either. I thought the play calling in overtime was not good at all.
Hmm.
Um, with those end zone fades, I hate end zone fades. By the way, they're
Terrible.
one of my least favorite plays in end zone fades and fake punts. My two least favorite plays in football. Um,
Why don't you like fake punts?
I hate fake punts. Just go
Facts.
for it. Just put your offense on the field. I hate fake punts.
Facts. Facts.
I think it's disrespectful. Like I don't think I should have to watch fake punts. That's another discussion. But I really not a fan of fake punts. Um, but yeah, then a check down on third down, like
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. Like those are the play calls. Could have been much better. And yeah, like you said, they shot themselves in the foot, which we said we chalked up to I suppose pure accident or pure coincidence in the first matchup. Turns out maybe they just shoot themselves in the foot in big games,
Yeah.
or it seems like it. So I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt there. Moving forward, now they have Clemson in the first round. Will they beat Clemson? Yeah, probably. Like I feel good about them against Clemson. Um, but yeah, well, I'm looking at your bracket actually, your little background bracket. Then they have Arizona State if they win
Yeah.
that one.
I mean, it's
I'd
pretty.
actually take them there.
They've got
But
a
then they
good run.
probably
They've got a good
yeah,
run.
but then that third game, you're playing either Oregon, Tennessee, or Ohio State. Those are all good teams. And by the way, whichever team gets there will have had to beat at least one really good other team to get to that point. Have to if it's Oregon, they'll have to beat either Tennessee or Ohio State. If it's Ohio State or Tennessee, they'd have to beat each other and Oregon. And so at that point, they're probably feeling pretty good, and you probably feel pretty good about them.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all the thoughts I have on that one. I don't know if you have anything else you
Well,
want to add.
for 2 seconds, I think we need to touch on the Beck injury, obviously. Because obviously, I mean, look, we've had our ups and downs with Carson Beck this season and whatnot. But when you start a whole season with one guy, then that guy goes
Yeah,
at the end of the season, that's tough. As far as I was looking at it right before this, there's no actual timetable for his return
right.
yet. So I don't know what that means, but there's a high likelihood that Gunnar Stockton, their backup, is going to be the guy for the postseason. Do you think that changes anything?
Um, well, they do have the bye, so I guess we'll see. We don't know the timeline. I'm assuming that helps them.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely helps them back wise because it gives you another week off. But with Gunnar Stockton, honestly, I thought he played pretty well. I didn't think he
Yeah.
looked bad at all. I thought he provided um an element on the ground with his legs that Carson Beck wasn't providing to that extent. I think he's a more dynamic runner. I think there's something there with Gunnar Stockton. I mean, he was a 5 star for a reason.
Yeah.
He broke all the Georgia records, the Trevor Lawrence records and all that for a reason. So I think you've got something. Um,
What a story that
and
would
so
be.
that would be well, that would be a story. I mean, they beat he was good enough to beat Texas, I guess. They looked better with him than with Bet offensively. So I don't think they're drawing dead. I think Carson Beck has that big game problem as well, to be honest. So
Maybe.
maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to have Gunnar Stockton in there. Could be,
Could be.
could be. Anyways, let's move on to the rundown, where we'll talk about all the other conference championship games, starting with the most entertaining. Well, they're actually really entertaining overall, but I would say the most entertaining one of the night that was Oregon Penn State. Um, the number one team in the country, Oregon, who has been a juggernaut for most of the year, feels like they've been destined to get this one seed throughout. And I mean, I believed in them, so shout out. Thank you for proving me right. They go into Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Stadium. Shout out. I
You
had my
talk
little
crap
take.
about.
I had my take on it, and I stand by it. Yeah, I think Chicago would be a cool Big Ten championship location, but whatever, doesn't matter. Penn State's there, and conventional wisdom would tell you, oh, Oregon's probably just gonna roll. I mean, if I told you Oregon scored 45 points in this game, you'd probably say it was a blowout because you wouldn't trust the Penn State
Whoa.
Penn State Nittany Lions
You're lying.
to put up a competitive fight against a great team that scored 45 points. It's just not in James Franklin's history. Well, a competitive fight they did put up. You cannot blame this. This is not a typical James Franklin big game loss whatsoever. They absolutely held their own. Oregon offensively did look dominant, but Penn State looked great too. And Penn State, now after that performance, I could feel a lot better about them going into this playoff, especially when you look at their side of the bracket. That's something I'll get into later,
Mhm.
but you can feel good about Penn State. Drew Aller, there's something there. But listen, I like my NFL prospects. I thought Garrett Nussmeier had something. You want to talk about having something? Drew Aller's got something. He's
Wow.
got it. Now, is it consistent? No, but is it a project? Yes, but is it a project you can work on and build on? Yeah, yeah, he's got it. Um, but yeah, I just think I was pretty impressed by Penn State overall. Oregon, obviously, nothing new from them, I suppose. Like I expected them to look awesome, and they looked awesome. So I feel good about Oregon. But Penn State, you've been low on Penn State.
I have been low on Penn State, and I think leading up to this, I had a right to be because they almost lost games. I mean, they almost got themselves out of the not out of the playoff, but I mean, they could if they had lost to Minnesota, they wouldn't have been in the
Yeah,
championship.
and they lost their only big game of the regular season.
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't have a lot of proof to show me otherwise. And you know what? Like in fairness too, like I think Oregon's played a lot of good teams this year. I think they've been battle tested pretty well, and I think Penn State got to watch a lot of film on them. And credit to Penn State. I mean, they threw everything they had at them. They gave them everything in the kitchen sink, and they really did have a chance
Yeah,
for that game to come back and make it something. I mean, that game was 28-10, and I was
yeah,
convinced that it was over. That Penn State
same.
had no right to be there, and then all of a sudden they just kept coming back. They kept chipping away. They kept trading blows, and I respect that. And they deserve the spot in the playoff. They do.
100%.
I didn't think they were going to make it at the beginning of the season, but they deserve that spot there. As far as Aller goes, I mean, it's funny because again, I feel like we haven't really seen some of these components that Penn State had. I really think that they were just extremely fired up to play this game, which I
Yeah,
think is good. And I know that you said you were going to talk about it, but they're going to host SMU. Am I right about that? Like they're going to host
yeah,
SMU in their stadium, and I don't know how SMU is going to win that game because I don't know how a team from Dallas is going to go into Pennsylvania in that stadium and try to pull something out. But
yeah,
look, like you said, and then they play Boise State, which I know you're going to talk about, but like we might be seeing a lot more of Penn State, like you're saying, and if they play how they did against Oregon, then
They've got a shot.
they have a legitimate chance. But on the Oregon side of things, I think that they're going to be obviously happy with where their offense played. Like you said, I think Gabriel is such a great college quarterback to build
Hmm.
around.
Heisman finalist. Shout out. Congrats.
I think yeah, his decision making, his accuracy, the energy he brings is really good, and they're able to balance the offense. I didn't think Penn State would score as much as they did. Oregon, of course, would not like them to score as much as they did. So they're going to want to clean up some of that defense there. But
Right.
I think overall, I think you just genuinely watched two teams really give it their all. I think Penn State played one of their best games of the season, and I think Oregon played one of their better games of the season. I don't know if I would say their best, but
Offensively, definitely.
yeah, yeah, sure. But moving forward, I think you're going to see a lot more of Penn State, and man, I'm excited to see who Oregon plays in that next one and what that game ends up being because that's all very interesting to me.
Yeah, that's well, actually, I won't get into it yet. Again, I'll get into. We're gonna talk about the playoff and the bracket in the closing segment. We'll dedicate a good amount of time to it. It won't be a well. Actually, we like to yap in our closing segments, so I guess it'll be a normal length ending. But yeah, Penn State, I think, more than proved their worth, and like you said, SMU coming off a loss too to Clemson. It's not like this is an SMU that just blew out Clemson. Well, if they did, they'd be a top four. They'd be on a bye. But Penn State's going to be favored. Like Penn State's going to be picked to win by most. And so yeah, and if Drew out, listen, those arm angles. I love my arm angles. I love a quarterback with arm angles. 6'5". He's
Blaze,
going to get drafted high. We'll
Blaze.
get to that in mock draft season. We'll get there. Anyways, speaking of SMU and the conference championship game that they lost to Clemson, 34-31 on a game-winning field goal, which you would not expect a college kicker to hit a field goal of that length, really, because they tend to not do it. It was 56 yards.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a mile.
It was a mile. And listen, in the NFL, that feels like nothing these days. In college, 56 yards might as well be the full length of the field. Um, but credit to Clemson, they went out and they won the game. Cade Klubnik, 4 touchdowns, shout out, good performance.
I said he was gonna have to play out of his mind.
And yeah, and you know what? He did. He played really well. Um, for SMU, Kevin Jennings also played really well. I mean, 31 to 50, threw the ball 50 times, which is a lot. But SMU had to make a comeback there. And so they got down early. They had to throw the ball. It makes sense, kind of how it works. Kevin Jennings, who any college game day viewers, Timothy Chalamet's Heisman on Heisman watch for next year. So shout out to you, Kevin Jennings. Um, this was an awesome game, especially because SMU made that comeback, and I think the key here for SMU making the playoff is the fact that they made they would have if they got blown out in this game, Alabama would have made it. They saved themselves by getting into that last field goal, and the fact that it was a 56-yard seemingly like impossible kick pretty much saved their season in terms of continuing it, even though they lost. And we both picked SMU to win this game because they'd been better throughout.
Didn't have any
Uh,
reason not to.
yeah, didn't have any reason not to. Now, was their schedule very easy? Yeah. Did they lose the one game against a legit contender in that conference in the Big 12, beating BYU? Yeah, they did. But other than that, they looked great all season. So we didn't have any reason really not to pick them. And Clemson had their struggles, but Clemson also did show moments,
Yeah,
flashes of playing well. And like you brought up, you talked about this. Dabo Sweeney's been there before. He knows how to prepare his guys for big games, and this was a big game, and he obviously prepared them really well. And Cade Klubnik showed up, um, and they got the win, and they earned their way into the playoff by winning games, which I think is perhaps the right way to get into the playoff. Hot
yeah,
take.
yeah. I mean, you're right. SMU being down 17 points and being able to come back. I mean, that saved their season. It was the most deficit they've had in the entire season. And, I think that SMU just got hit with the, oh, we're in a really big game right now moment. And they hadn't in the beginning. I mean, you were watching some pretty embarrassing drops from some of their guys. I don't know if you know exactly what I'm talking about, but there were multiple times where, I mean, the ball is going right through these guys' hands, and it looked like nerves. I mean, drop passes, penalties. They had two turnovers in the first quarter. Um, but not to say that Clemson didn't play a great game. I mean, Clemson came out and played a really good game. They were
Right.
able to piece them up. They were able to throw the ball down the field. They were able to just get things moving, and they were able to pressure Jennings a lot. I mean, they I mean, it really felt like every play he was scrambling, trying to get out of a sack, something. And thankfully Jennings is mobile enough to be able to do that. But you know, credit to SMU. I think if they had been more composed in that first half, I think there's a definite
Yeah.
chance they win that game. I said that this was going to be a flip game too. I mean, I picked SMU, but I was definitely
Yeah.
aware of the fact that Clemson has the opportunity to win this. And honestly, I think if that game went to overtime, I think that was SMU's game because they were just rolling. I think they felt good. I mean, again, that's a if. That's a if scenario. But again, you kind of briefly mentioned it too. I think SMU also is kind of like a Texas in the sense of did you get enough legitimate experience during the regular season to be able to perform against the high level teams that you're going to play? And Clemson didn't have the toughest schedule either. But to be honest with you, like that South Carolina game, like I think playing a South Carolina team who is now one of the best teams in the country, like there, I think South
Yeah.
Carolina would beat some of the teams that are behind me. Um, maybe I'm
I
wrong.
mean,
Maybe
they literally did beat
they did beat Clemson.
some of the teams by yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So. I think that Clemson just came in a little more battle tested. I think they have a little bit more veteran experience there. And like I said, and like you repeated, Dabo Swinney, I think got that team prepared to play really well in that first half, which eventually ended up being what made him get there. But I'm very happy that SMU is in there. Very, very, very happy that they're in there, especially over Alabama. And I think that the committee got that one right for sure. I think SMU deserved to be there. I loved Rhett Lashley's post-game press conference. I think it's really fun to kind of see this added new element of drama in
Mhm.
college playoff football where these coaches can now literally attack and like beg for their teams to get in there and then whine like Lane Kiffin did. But I think Brett Lashley was right. I think that it would be bad if their team wasn't in the playoff. I could get it, but I'm glad they're in there and I'm happy with that.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. Um, let's quickly touch on the two other games that was the two other conference championships that resulted in playoff spots. Probably well, not probably, definitely the least exciting game of Saturday was Arizona State, Iowa State, because Arizona State just destroyed them. I
Yep.
mean, they destroyed them. Sam Levitt played really well. Um, Cam
Scatterbo.
um, Scatabo, right? Speaking of campaigning for that best running back in the country award, which I don't know about that one
Maybe a different
because,
year. Maybe a different
yeah,
year.
yeah, I don't know about that one because of the guy we'll get to in the next game. But listen, Arizona State just it really was never close. Um, and yeah, they clearly deserve to make it, and good for them. They went from the I guess what's the term? The least favorite to win the conference,
Yeah.
betting wise, to winning the conference and getting a top four seed and a
Love
bye in the college football playoff.
that.
And that's all Kenny Dillingham and that culture. Kenny Dillingham is an Arizona State guy, which I think is such a huge part of college because he clearly loves that program and cares about its development and cares about what happens there. And this is the result you get when you get a guy like that.
Yep. Yep. You're right. I love what they're doing down in Tempe. And I don't really think we need to touch more on this because we both were very adamant on Arizona State winning this game. They were
Yeah,
coming out of high, and Iowa State had looked bad some weeks.
yeah,
Like I thought, maybe halfway through the season they're probably going to pull it out in that conference, but they looked bad in a lot of games, and I think Arizona State was just able to flex their muscles, be the more dominant team. Scatabo is a beast, and interested to see what they do against whoever they play. Very interested to see what they do.
very interested. Okay, final game. Quickly, speaking of running backs, Boise State on Friday beat UNLV 21-7 to get that group of five spot, and which turned out to be the three seed,
Crazy.
which is crazy. The group of five team, his resume was good enough to overcome two other conference champions from the Power Four.
What do you think
So
about
good. For, what?
what do you think about that?
What do I think about in terms of what?
Them getting that three seed over those other ones, or do you want to talk about that later?
Um, oh, I'll just touch it now. I think there's bigger discussions to be had about the bracket later. But yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't really care. Like it's Arizona State and then Clemson, and I think honestly, for being honest, Boise State of the three had the single best performance of any of those three, and that came in a loss to Oregon. But they had the best performance, I guess. That might as well it's a loss in the record book, but I think we just refer to it as a win because that is has anyone played Oregon better all year? Ohio State, I suppose, yes. But Idaho, maybe Idaho. Shout out, shout out. And I guess Penn State gave them a fight. But no, that was very like Boise State's resume was great, and I'm fine with them. I don't think Arizona State, which was a two-loss team, or Clemson, which was a three-loss team, I'm not gonna get all up in arms about them being behind Boise State. So I'm fine with that. And yeah, Ashton Jeanty, who is the best back in the country, sorry Cam, um, but and a Heisman finalist and probably gonna finish second. He we'll also get I guess the Heisman is in a few days.
A few days,
Let me look this up.
dude. I think Gene Team might win it now.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Nah. Oh, it's in 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah, the 14th,
Wow.
Saturday.
Should we make our
Um, yeah, but end of that final part of the episode, I guess.
okay?
We declare a Heisman winner. Um, but yeah, Ashton G&T will be in New York for the ceremony. And yeah, so I'm fine with him getting that spot. They beat UNLV 21-7. He had that 75-yard rushing touchdown, which he always does. And I saw someone on Twitter try to be like, "Oh, if you take away Ashton G&T's big plays, what do you really have?" Well, you have a guy averaging 5.1 yards per carry, which is insane. And also, if you take away Steph Curry's three-point shooting, like, okay, well, what's your argument? Like, yeah, he gets big plays. That's part of his thing. Anyways, whatever your thoughts are in this game.
Yeah, I mean, we both had Boise State winning this game. But I think there's something to be said too about like, they scored what, those 20 points in that game. Like I'm fine with that. But like limiting a UNLV team to 7 is pretty impressive. I mean, they've been able to put some points up. And again, like you've said, if Boise State is able to just have good defense, then they have chances in these games. Because I love one of GT's quotes, which was every week team's game plan is to stop me, and they can't. And they continually can't. And look, Boise State's quarterback can throw too. I'm blanking on his name right now, but they can throw the ball around too. I'm not saying that they're the most balanced team in the country, but they don't need to be when they've got one of the best running backs there.
Yeah,
Um, no, good performance, good win. G&T casually going for over 200 yards. Simple. With
nothing crazy.
it's crazy. It really is crazy, and I love that the new playoff lets teams like this be in
Yeah,
the season. I really do like that. I was very critical of the 12 team initially. I thought it should just be 8, but I'm happy with this. I'm glad
yeah.
to see this team in there, and I hope that they're able to put on a good performance as far as G5 goes, right? Because I don't want to watch them get blown out by anybody, but I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
I agree. And listen, Penn State, I know we waxed poetic about them a second ago, but like they could play poorly. Like that
Yeah.
that would that be shocking to anyone? No. So Boise State could find themselves playing one of those top three, top top right hand corner teams, and that would be interesting
Would be.
for a potential national championship appearance. That would be something. Anyways, that's all for the rundown. Let's hop into the closing segment.
Do it.
Okay, rundown. we've been teasing it for a bit throughout the episode, but let's talk about the college football playoff bracket
Let's hear it.
and the results. Yeah, it's behind you. There's a lot. There's a lot to discuss here. Now, one thing I really am passionate the thing I'm probably most bothered by, I would say. And I know it wasn't the national discussion or it wasn't the number one thing on the national discussion platter, whatever. But for me, I think the fact that Oregon's reward for getting the one seed, being the best team all year, winning the conference championship, is the toughest path possible, I think is ridiculous and a flaw in how the system is built. Meanwhile, a team like Penn State gets to lose to Oregon and have as easy, I suppose, in theory, a path as you can get, which just doesn't really seem fair to me because it's saying essentially what the committee is saying is Oregon would have been better off losing that game, getting that 5 seed where Texas is, getting to play Clemson and then Arizona State, which they would have won both, on the way to the third round against a tougher opponent or whatever. So I think it's ridiculous that we're just stuck in this format of well, these are the seeds and these are the little brackets or whatever, and those are the teams that are playing in these situations. And I think that there's a very simple solution, pretty easy fix for it, and that's just to reseed like the NFL does. I don't think we need this bracket style tournament. I think Oregon's the one seed, they should play the 12 seed, or the lowest seed coming out of the first round. Whoever the lowest seed that wins the first round matchup should be the one that plays Oregon, and then Georgia gets the next lowest, and then blah blah, blah etc. Same as the NFL. I don't think it needs to be an NBA style bracket. I don't think it needs to be a college basketball type bracket. Like it should just be reseeding because in football, that seems to me to be the fairest and best possible option. Because right now we're not rewarding teams winning or having the best resumes and playing the best throughout the season. Because the one seed is going to get the nine and eight seed every single year based on this bracket. And guess what? The 9 and 8 seed are probably, for the most part, always going to be two really good teams. Like Ohio State and Tennessee are two really, really good teams that could legitimately compete for this national championship, unlike some other teams here. And so, is it fair that to Oregon that they have to face one of those, while some other teams that didn't win the conference championships, that didn't have the best regular seasons, get an easier path? I don't think so. I don't think it incentivizes the regular season or conference championships. So I disagree with it.
So you don't think the bye week is enough of a kind of caveat to let them give them that rest?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
I just don't think. I just don't think it's. I just don't see I mean, Georgia gets a bye week and they get then to face either Indiana or Notre Dame. Um, so I don't see how a 2 seed could have an easier path than a 1 seed. I don't know. Boise State gets to face either SMU or Penn State or whatever. Penn State literally, I mean, Penn State, I guess, is the team I picked because they were the one that literally lost to Oregon in the conference championship. And so I just don't like it overall. Um, I don't think it's I don't think it's the an incentivizing format. And I think reseeding will fix that pretty much. That's really all they need to do. It's not a tough fix to me. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have. I mean, I have more, but I want to let you go.
Well, I like that idea. I haven't actually really thought about that. Um, I think it's interesting. I do a bit struggle with like Arizona State having this bye. Not a ton, but sorry, I had sunflower seed in my mouth. But to the extent of like I feel like there are some teams here who have played better seasons, who have had a better resume, who are kind of getting treated, not the greatest, but at the same time, this is still a new format that they're going to try to
Yeah,
work inks and things like that. And I get that. But to play the devil's advocate, I am happy with who the committee ended up putting in this bracket, which I mentioned earlier. And you and I have had a plethora of comments and complaints about some of the possibilities that they might end up putting in there. Had they slotted in Alabama, I would have been angry. Had they slotted into Miami, I would have been angry. I don't remember what the other 15 seed was team, but there was a couple other
South
teams.
Carolina, Ole Miss. Those were the
Yeah,
teams.
Ole Miss, I would have been angry. Like there were these games here, and I like it because I think somebody said something that I liked, which was the new playoff is showing that even if you have good wins, if you have bad losses, those outweigh the good wins, which I personally agree with. I personally agree with that. I think Ole Miss's loss to Kentucky, since I've said at the beginning of the season, was unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And that's the way it is. And for Lane Kiffin to come on here and complain all the time about their strength of schedule and blah, 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 that's a game that you got to win. And you not being in the playoff because of that loss is fine with me. But I'm happy with who they've included. Um, and it's very interesting to see how different these strength of games are, right? Like, but at the same time, like I think Texas is going to beat Clemson fairly handedly. Okay, and then I think that Texas is probably going to beat Arizona State fairly handedly, right? But then if you look at Ohio State's position, you're just like, damn. Or Tennessee, they have such a brutal path. Penn State versus Indiana, right? Penn State, you're thinking, okay, well, I think that they'll beat SMU personally. SMU could win, but I
Mm,
think they'll win that game. And I think Penn State will come into the game against Boise State as a favorite. The six seed,
right,
the 3 seed is a favorite, whereas
right,
Indiana is going to have to beat Notre Dame and then Georgia, and then play whoever wins that game. So
right.
I think that the differences and the balances in it are different. I like your take on the reseeding, and I would not be surprised if I don't know if they try to institute it next season. They probably want to try it again, but I could see the season after that definitely being a thing. But it's funny to see who ended up in here and comparing our initial brackets to that because I'm gonna pull up my old bracket actually and see.
Do that too. Uh, let's see. Let's
I was
see.
right about Alabama missing it though. I'm pulling up my first one, not my revised one. Actually,
Yeah.
I'll pull up.
Let me see.
Let's see here. My first one. My first one. I had
Oh
Georgia,
wow.
Texas, and all these good things.
Oh my
Miami,
goodness. My
nope.
first.
Miami,
Yep.
nope. I had Tennessee, which I like. I had USC, nope. Ole Miss, nope. I had NIU. Oh my God, I had
Yeah.
Missouri and Arizona. Oh my God,
You're gonna like my first one. You're gonna
ridiculous.
get a laugh out of it. My original week one, day one prediction. I'll start at the top because the last team is really the funny one. Um, I had Texas as a one. I had Oregon as a two. Shout out Oregon. I had Miami as a three and Utah as the four. We both liked Utah.
I had
That was
Utah.
a yeah, that was the time. Five, I had Ohio State at the five. I had Georgia at the six. Which I Georgia, Texas. I just thought Texas would win the SEC
Yeah,
championship. I was wrong. Whatever. Seven, I had Ole Miss. I was high on Ole Miss,
right.
if you recall. Eight, I had Penn State. Thank you, Penn State. Then nine, I had Alabama, uh, which looked after that Georgia game
Lock.
looked like a prescient prediction, but whatever. 10 with Kansas State, shout out. And then 11 USC, and then 12. Do you remember who my 12 was?
Tulane.
Yeah, my most hated. I believed in my most hated. I suppose that's why they're my most hated because at one time I did believe in them.
Yeah, you gave him hope for a time period.
They were my first lock of the week
Hmm.
before they collapsed against Oklahoma. Just collapsed all over themselves. Anyways, I think my second one, my revised one, is probably a lot better. I can't find it right now though,
Can't find it
so
either for some reason.
yeah,
Maybe that never
kind of don't
happened.
want to. Yeah, don't want to waste time looking for that
Doesn't
TV.
matter. The first one was
Oh wait, I found it. Did I find it? No, no. Oh yeah, I had Boise State. Oh, I had Boise State making it.
I think we both did.
I had Boise State making it. I had Tennessee making it. I had Ole Miss dropping. That's better work by me.
There we
That's
go.
better work by me. But anyways, um, yeah, I agree with you on what you were saying. Just and I think I don't mind. I don't mind. Like I don't mind a 5 seed getting rewarded, I suppose, as compared to the other non top four getting a easier schedule than the 7 or the 9 or whatever because they're the 5 seed, they're the higher seed. I think in general that's how it should work. The higher seeds should have easier paths. I just think once we get to a 1 seed having the hardest path is where it gets ridiculous. And yeah, I agree with it's the first year and there's some stuff to work out and I'm sure they'll figure it out. I hope they'll figure it out. And then like you said on SMU, as compared to the other bubble teams that ended up not making it, I agree with you that I'm happy that they're the ones that made it. Now, I will say, if like Alabama of those teams, quality of win wise, yeah, Alabama would be your team. Um, but I just don't think that it's fair to have that Alabama team make it with those 3 losses against Vanderbilt, um, against Oklahoma, and the complaining from people about guess from like SEC heads or whatever about I guess we don't need to schedule any tough out of conference games. Out of conference games are not why you miss the playoffs. It's because you lost your SEC games, your conference games, which you have to play. And you lost them bad against bad teams. 24-3 against Oklahoma is just not acceptable. Like you just can't have that. And so I think SMU deserved to get in. Like that's the reward the teams that go out and win games and don't hurt SMU. SMU was a top 10 seed before conference championship weekend. They lost on a 56-yard field goal. Don't hurt teams from making the conference championships. That's a precedent you just can't set, and I'm happy they didn't set it. Um, so yeah, I'm good with that. I'm happy with that. I agree with you there. And that pretty much it?
Yeah. You want to pick your winners? Or do we want to do that later?
Heisman winner? Oh, winner of the Natty.
Whatever you want. Give me
I
Boise
mean, you know who Boise. I mean, you know who I'm going with.
rocking with the Ducks.
I'm rocking with the Ducks. They've been there for me all year. I'm not going to bend them now. They've proven me right, and so I will stick with them until they prove me wrong, or just never prove me wrong. And I look like a winner at the end of the season.
You think
So yeah, I'm
Ohio
gonna go with the
State,
Ducks. What?
you think Ohio State can beat them?
I think they can. I don't think they will though. I don't think they will. Ohio State, by the way, is it Ohio State? Yes. Ohio. We'll get to it in the preview, but little feeler take right now. Little throw it out. That Ohio State Tennessee game, the weather is not going to be very good, which which will suit Tennessee. But it's in Ohio, and the weather's not going to be good. And Ohio State, I'm assuming, unless they're playing Michigan, their plan is to go to their star receivers and do all that and attack through the air. Well, it's going to be a grimy, murky game. Because of that weather. The weather will not, will make it hard. And Tennessee's defense is elite. And I don't know, just throwing that out there. But we'll get to it in the preview episode.
I would love to see Tennessee win that game. Would
That
love.
would be, yeah, that would be something.
I
But
think you
Ohio
and I,
State,
for the next episode, we'll make our full brackets. We'll fill
yeah,
out. And
I
we'll,
agree with that. I will say now, though, I think any of those 3 teams, I think Tennessee, Ohio State, Oregon are three of the 4 teams that could win the national championship, and they're all on one side of the bracket, which I think is ridiculous. Like I said. Anyways, there's actually I said I wanted to close out on the Heisman prediction, and I still do. But there's also one more thing very quickly that I feel like we would be remiss not to touch on because it's probably in terms of it is some of the biggest college football news, out there. And I don't know if it's 100 million gazillion percent confirmed yet, but it looks like North Carolina will have Bill Belichick as their head coach, which is fascinating to me. And is it going to work? I don't think so. I think it'll probably end up being a disaster. If I had to bet one way or the other. but is it going to be exciting to watch and fascinating and super fun to follow? And will we have fun talking about it? Yeah. Yeah, we will. So I don't know what you think about that.
Well, Bill Belichick is dating a woman that should probably be in college, so that's lit. So I think he just wants to dip his feet in the water and see if he can get a younger girl. Anyways, shut up.
Realistically, he's just setting his son up for the job after he retires in like a year or two. Just going to give him the job. Seems like it.
Is it a
That's
terrible
probably in his It's probably in his 400-page manifesto, his Bible that he gave
Bible?
UNC.
Did he? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he gave them a 400-page. That was literally what it's called. It's like a something Bible. I forgot the first word. 400 pages, and then like he accepted the job, gave it to UNC, and then it was on UNC to read that and see if they met the demands. I'll be honest, they probably didn't read it, and they were like, "We don't have time for this. Let's just get together and decide if we want you." And that's pretty much what happened because I would not be reading that. But yeah,
So is this like a confirmed thing? Because I've heard so many different.
it feels about as close to, I don't think it's um what's it called? Like I think Inside Carolina like reported today, which apparently when it comes to North Carolina news is very reliable after someone else reported it yesterday. So I guess we'll see. We're still waiting official confirmation, but it seems like that's where it's headed.
I think
Seems like that's where it's headed.
I think it's a terrible idea. I don't think Belichick's play style matches the college game. I don't know how the hell he's going to recruit. He's going to hire somebody to literally do all the recruiting for him because he's not going to be able to recruit the modern college athlete. Like
Mhm.
that's insane. Also, did you see with the Gators edge, Jack Pyburn?
Jack Pyburn,
Unbelievable. If that's real, that's
ridiculous.
unbelievable. If people, if
Yeah.
you haven't seen that, Google that. But he's asking for more snaps, more playing time, more money, everything that you would have to earn. He's just asking for them to give it to him, which I
Yeah,
think,
the more money thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The thing that I thought was really just like, what are we doing? Is he has to play on third downs. That's just
yeah.
like
What's
you can't accept that. Like if you're Billy Napier, if you're the staff of Florida, what if it doesn't make sense for him to play on third down? Like that's a ridiculous request.
the thing I've ever seen?
But
So
yeah, Bill Belichick,
wouldn't he doesn't know even how to deal with that. I think it's stupid. I think that also too, it's not like UNC is like a built foundational program that he's going to be able to
no,
like he's
it's a
going to have
lot
to
of work.
clean up a mess. He's going to have to clean up a team that can't win games already, which I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what his capability is. I don't know anything.
Where were we?
It's on had a quick freeze moment, but we're back. We're good.
Quick
We'll
freeze mode. We're back.
I think Belichick being there is stupid. I don't think it makes any sense for him, his legacy, college football. I don't think any of it makes sense. But you know what? Do it. Why not? USC doesn't have anything to lose,
He's
basically.
doing it, literally doing it. I
And
saw someone tweet, imagine being a UNC defensive player that's struggling, that has a C in one of his classes, and then you have to go learn a Bill Belichick defensive playbook. Not great for that guy.
brutal. Brutal. I think it's so crazy. It's crazy that we're even talking about this. I love it.
That's ridiculous. It will be funny though. It'll be good entertainment.
I love it.
Interesting to watch and follow.
Crazy.
Anyways, I guess let's do our Heisman predictions quickly. I guess it's
Also,
literally
too, to go from
each
Mac
one of
Brown, a
us.
grandfather, to Bill Belichick, also a grandfather, is very funny.
Very funny, very interesting, very great dichotomy. Yeah, and what is North like? I thought North Carolina wanted to pivot off that. Anyways, whatever. That's enough time on UNC coach Bill Belichick. There'll be more time. There'll be a time and place for a full discussion if and when that becomes official. Um, anyways, yeah, Heisman pick. Sounds like you have GT.
This is tough.
Are we doing who we think we should win or who
Let's
we
do
think's
both.
gonna win?
Do both. Let's see who we think
Okay.
we win, and then who we think. Well, God, this is tough. This is my thing. I was pro Travis Hunter all season long, and what like I'm not trying to say was in that sense because if he wins, I wouldn't be upset at all. I think that what he's able to do on both sides of the ball is literally like people will talk about him for years to come, years and years and years to come. And I think that that's super important. However, Colorado lost games. He doesn't dominate each individual position as he does. Like he's great at both positions, but he's not like the best in the country at each position. He probably plays harder. I would argue that he plays harder teams than Boise State. I don't think I'd get too much lashback on that. But there is the reality that Gene T says, which is every team tries to stop me every week and they can't, and I'm putting up record-breaking numbers and blah 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 blah. And Gene T now has a postseason, but that's obviously not being equated into this. I think Hunter will still win. It's a coin flip for me who should, but I would give it like 55% Gene T, 45% Hunter. That's where I stand.
Okay. I think it's close. I think both are deserving. In general, I do think Travis Hunter. I would vote for Travis Hunter. Um, I think a lot has been made. There's been a lot of like pretty disgusting discourse, I think, over him. I don't know if disgusting is the right word, but pretty ridiculous discourse and unfair because people dislike Colorado and they dislike Dion. Um, which to be honest, I think is ridiculous in and of itself, but whatever, it's not the discussion. Um, where it's become like, oh, Travis Hunter is getting an award for most snaps played, which is just not true. That's not why he's winning it. And there's been like a discrediting of him as a player both ways, even though he's legitimately elite and awesome both ways and is doing things that we haven't seen and won't see. And I think Ashton G&T is also having a phenomenal season. I don't think it's a once in a lifetime ever season because we've seen it before. Um, and so I would go with Travis Hunter, and I do think he is going to win. But I mean, if you look at the betting odds, he's like a huge favorite compared to previous Heisman winners. I think it's like the second or third largest favorite in the past like decade or something. So it seems pretty set that he's got it, and I'm good with that. Like I'm fine with that. I think he deserves it, and so I would go with him as well. But I don't really, unlike a lot of people who seem to have turned this Heisman race into like some sort of war. I don't have a problem either way because they've both had great seasons, and I'm just glad they're both getting recognized as non-quarterbacks, and it's not like, oh, let's give it to Dylan Gabriel, which I just think would be ridiculous. Even though I'm an Oregon guy, I'm an Oregon guy. I think it's clear,
In
but
other seasons, Gabriel could win it
Dylan
for.
Gabriel, yeah, I mean, even Dylan Gabriel regression next year is the frontal lobe developing. How old is he? He's old. He is 23. Ooh, he's lucky. He's lucky. He won't. It won't be developed next year. So Oregon, if he's back, watch out. But
I think he can come back, can he?
no, I don't think so. I think he's going to the NFL.
I
I
mean,
mean, I
this
guess
is his
yeah,
fifth year.
yeah. It's fifth year. I don't know. Maybe as I don't even know COVID eligibilities and all that. Who even knows?
It's true. He might get
He's
injured.
probably done. Anyways, yeah. Travis Hunter, I think will win it. I think should win it. I don't care either way. I'm fine with either of those guys. I think they both are deserving. And Ashton Jeanty, if he loses it, gets to take out his anger on the playoff. So that's all I've got.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if GT loses and then just like ends up just destroying teams in the playoff, that would be a great story.
There you go.
Be a great story. You never know. You never know. I'm excited.
Never know. All right. I think that's pretty much it. Unless you have anything else you want to add.
Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers. I forgot about Indiana. Well, we'll get to them, when we're previewing stuff,
I
and
want him
we'll
to
talk
beat
about
Notre
Indiana
Dame so bad. I
and
need
Georgia.
I need it.
But if Indiana goes all the way, we'll not complain.
Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.
That's it for me.
Sig 10. That's it for me. That's all. That's all. Anyways, appreciate you for watching. Again, only episode this week, but we will be back as normally scheduled. Should be back as normally scheduled. As you've been accustomed to two per week, two shows per week. Um, I don't know what we'll talk about in the first one because we won't have any. I guess we could do an in-depth Army Navy discussion breakdown. Shout out to your little finger hearts,
I'm
your
trying and I'm
hearts.
not. It doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, it looks fine.
How do
I
I
think it
do it with the
works.
one finger?
Oh,
I don't know.
no, this is not.
That's better.
Whatever.
I
Is
think it's
it?
better than mine. I feel like I have too many fingers in the way. How do you
Anyways, what?
then what?
You got it. You got it.
Then what? Anyways,
Anyway, yeah, that's all. We'll discuss Army Navy on Tuesday. Um, Maybe we'll do an all
Army.
22 film breakdown, full film breakdown with a little pen thingy. We'll highlight stuff. We'll break down formations and plays.
Look at the triple
That
option.
is possible. Yeah, the triple optionness of it all. The running game, probably some intricate stuff going on there. So, but yeah, then we'll be back Friday preview episode. The first playoff game is Friday, and we will be previewing the Gasparilla Bowl. Like I said, Florida Tulane game of the year. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
So for me, thank you guys so much for watching. Catch us on Instagram and YouTube for more content. Love you. See you. Talk to you later.
See
Goodbye.
you.